With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown.
And I am Yolana Weeks.
Our top stories.
Natasha Gray Brooks highlights neglect in constituency number 1 East Bastille.
Public health approach takes center stage in St. Kitts and Nevis crime prevention strategy. St. Kitts and Nevis to launch new healthcare initiatives, a security strategy showing results. Guyana rallies international community against Venezuela's aggression. Grenada's National Democratic Congress is making it clear that dominance is the goal and no seat is off limits. Internationally, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau retaliates against U.S. and calls Trump's tariffs very dumb. Now, the details.
The leader of the People's Action Movement and the party's representative for constituency number 1, Natasha Shani Gray Brooks, has repeatedly expressed her displeasure with the lack of attention being given to East Bastille. Gray Brooks, in an open message to Parliamentary Representative for Constituency 1 East Bastille, Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, highlighted some issues plaguing the area and called out the area representative for neglecting the concerns of constituents. Quote, representation isn't about ignoring your constituents. It's not a performance, a photo op. It's not about dressing up in matching colors and looking good or a pat on the back for simply occupying a seat. It's about accountability, responsiveness, and a relentless dedication to the needs of the people you swore to serve. Let's be clear. Disappearing acts, closed-door decisions, and selective listening are not representation. They are acts of betrayal. They are a slap in the face to the very individuals who entrusted you with their voices, said Gray Brooks to Hanley. One of the major issues talked about is the road infrastructure in East Bastille, particularly the deterioration of Southwell Drive, which leads to the Tucker Clark Primary School, the Newtown Health Center and Dental Unit, and the Newtown Community Center. WINN FM visited the area and recognized that the road is rugged and in need of a facelift. It has become unbearable for some commuters who ply the stretch daily. On rainy days, the potholes are even more evident as countless pools of water span a wide portion of the street.
It is very sad that I have to come to Southwell Drive. Come to Southwell Drive to speak on an issue that I spoke about last year. You mean to say that we had visitors to this country? You mean to say that a new school year has opened and Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, who is the representative for this constituency, continues to neglect not just the people of Ponds Pasture, the whole of East Bastille, but he continues to neglect all the pedestrians that use Southwell Drive. If Dr. Hanley was to walk a mile in the shoes of the students that go to Tucker Clark Primary, in the shoes of the teachers that teach Tucker Clark Primary, in the shoes of the residents of Ponds Pasture, in the shoes of the different people that come to the gym here in Ponds Pasture, in the shoes of the nurses that work at the Newtown Health Center, in the shoes of the patients that visit the Newtown Health Center, in the shoes of the mothers who take their children to clinic, he would understand that this is an area that he has neglected.
The PAM leader shared road safety concerns, fearing what could happen if the roads are not repaired. She also warned Hanley that if he continues to ignore the people's concerns, he will be removed from Parliament.
You know, we have had so many accidents over the past months, and sometimes the road is the cause of those accidents. Imagine the drivers will have to drive on these roads and suppose their tires go out and run into one of our children. You know what a catastrophe that would be? Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, you have failed the people, not just of Ponds Pasture, but of East Bastille. You have failed the people who walk on the street daily. You have failed the policemen who use this training complex. You have failed the people who have used this road continuously, and the cries are falling on deaf ear. Cries are falling on deaf ear, and we need you to leave this constituency, because clearly, if you were paying attention to this constituency, these roads would not be like this. Imagine People have to be walking and trying not to fall as a result of the state of disrepair in this ward. And you have seen these comments. People have brought this to your attention, and you continue to ignore the people. Continue to ignore the people, Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, because it will just take you right out of Parliament and back to what you used to do.
Gray Brooks additionally raised concerns about the sporting facilities in the area, showing pictures and videos of the tennis court in a state of ruin. A member of the Tennis Association told WINN FM that efforts had been made to resurface the tennis court, but there had been a challenge to allocate funding from the Ministry of Sports. Quote, "We are not getting enough money from them to resurface that court," the tennis representative said. Gray Brooks expressed that the constituents of East Bastille are fed up with the neglect and fed up with the state of disrepair of the community. Quote, "True representation is a dialogue, a partnership, a sacred covenant. It demands empathy, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to the common good. It requires listening, learning, and acting with courage and conviction. So let me be clear. The people say you are not listening. East Bastille residents say you are not acting in their best interests, and we recognize you are not representing the true needs of your constituents. Then clearly you are not doing your job, and the people deserve better," said Gray Brooks to Hanley.
St. Kitts and Nevis is pioneering an innovative approach to addressing crime and violence by implementing public health methodologies to combat disease outbreaks. The strategy was highlighted during the February 27th, 2025 National Assembly, when the Honourable Senator Iseline Phillip outlined the government's comprehensive framework for tackling rising crime rates through data-driven interventions. The public health approach adopted by the administration treats violence as a preventable condition similar to infectious diseases, requiring systematic intervention based on epidemiological principles. Senator Phillip emphasized this scientific foundation during her address.
By adopting the public health approach, we are being guided by the data, Madam Speaker. We're being guided by the data and the science, which has been informing us in terms of how we ought to approach the crime and violence issue at its root causes.
At the core of this strategy are three fundamental principles that form the framework for all initiatives. First, interrupting violence transmission through community mediators who can identify and deter potential perpetrators. Second, implementing preventative programs to stop future spread. And third, transforming social norms to foster cultural rejection of violence. According to Senator Phillip, the Citizen Security Advisory Council meets bi-weekly and brings diverse stakeholders, including representatives from the private sector, faith-based institutions, and government agencies. This collaborative approach ensures that interventions align with data and scientific principles while engaging the society in finding solutions.
Peace and citizen security is not something that any government can buy or force on our people. We all need to accept a personal and civic responsibility to be more caring, to be more kind, to act safely, and be peaceful people.
The government envisions these initiatives as catalysts for broader cultural transformation in St. Kitts and Nevis. Senator Phillip concluded her address with an ambitious vision.
It is our hope that across and outside the government, all of our people and residents will accept their civic duty of rejecting violence in all its forms and adopting a more kind and peaceful behaviors that set an example to our children and young people who deserve to live and grow up in societies of kindness, care, and peaceful coexistence.
Such a holistic approach could position St. Kitts and Nevis as a potential model for other Caribbean nations grappling with similar challenges. Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew announced several new healthcare initiatives during a recent National Assembly sitting, including the launch of a new cutting-edge CT scan machine and plans to reopen the private wing of the JNF General Hospital in April 2025. During his address on February 27, 2025, Dr. Drew, who also serves as Minister of Health, revealed that the government will officially launch the new CT scan machine on March 3, 2025.
I want to announce today that we are going to launch our brand new spanking CT scan machine on the 3rd of March, which is this Monday. As you know, Nevis has an advanced CT scan machine as well. I think it's a 125 or 127 slice, the most advanced one. 128? Yes, the most advanced type. And in addition to that, we can also do contrast with ours.
The Prime Minister explained the advanced capabilities of the new equipment.
So we have bought an injector so that we can do contrast study. What does that mean? Inject you with a dye so that when we see the CT scan, it can help to really bring out what is the pathology or condition that a patient may have. That is very, very advanced.
Dr. Drew also reported progress on reopening the private wing of JNF Hospital, which has been closed for some time.
I want to say we intend to open it in the first quarter of this year as well. By April, that will open.
Additionally, the MRI project at JNF Hospital is advancing.
The building is well on its way, and we want to launch that before the third quarter of this year.
Beyond infrastructure improvements, Dr. Drew announced a new focus on healthcare staff development.
The other thing that we are launching this year in Ministry of Health is our campaign for human resource development and customer service. Madam Speaker, customer service at the hospital, it needs improvement. And so we are going to invest in customer service.
The Prime Minister emphasized expectations for healthcare professionals.
I expect that from every doctor, every nurse, even down to those who maintain the environment and are not directly involved with medical care. I want them also to treat those who come to our institutions for care with respect, dignity, and empathy.
Turning to national security matters, Dr. Drew highlighted the success of the government's public health approach in addressing crime and violence in the Federation. He thanked political parties and citizens for participating in the recent Day of Interruption, which was part of the administration's strategic security plan.
We have seen significant improvement in our security situation. We have seen a significant decrease in crime and violence. And I want to ask our people to continue on that path.
Dr. Drew emphasized that addressing crime requires a whole-of-society approach.
Do not allow anybody to draw you out and to make it as if it doesn't take all of us to resolve the matter. It takes all of us.
He described the strategy as
a strategic approach to dealing with crime and violence. And not just crime and violence, but look at the whole issue of citizen security, which is beyond just law and order, or what we'll call the security apparatus.
The Prime Minister elaborated that citizen security involves
schools, private sector, sports team, the man hanging out on the corner, the retired people, the church. Wherever you are in St. Kitts and Nevis, you are part of the apparatus of citizen security.
The National Hospital project, which the Prime Minister confirmed will begin construction in early 2025, was among the other significant health projects discussed.
The hospital project, a national hospital project, where we are constructing a smart hospital climate to deal with the climate and technologically advance and so forth, is well on its way, and construction will start definitely this year and the early part of this year.
Regarding Social Security reforms, Dr. Drew announced that the actuary has presented preliminary findings and the final report was expected at the end of February.
And if we don't do something now, we can lose Social Security.
He warned, noting that no reforms have been implemented since the system was established in 1978. The Prime Minister concluded his address by emphasizing his government's commitment to creating a sustainable island state,
where this simply means improve living for all of our people in a resilient and sustainable way.
In regional news, Guyana rallies international community against Venezuela's aggression, Guyana News source reports.
Tonight, the Guyana government continues to be in discussions with the international community about the threats and aggression by the Venezuelan military against various oil production vessels operating in Guyana's waters. On Saturday morning, a Venezuelan military ship was spotted in Guyana's waters traversing close to the various vessels and informing those vessels that they were operating in what the Venezuelans considered to be a disputed area. In a national address on Saturday morning, President Irfan Ali said the development in Guyana's maritime territory is serious. The vessel that came into Guyana's waters has been identified as a Venezuelan Coast Guard vessel.
Based on visible markings, the patrol vessel was identified as ABF Wakeri PO-11 IMO 4695542, a Venezuelan Coast Guard vessel. Our assets and FPSO Prosperity are operating lawfully within Guyana's exclusive economic zone. The patrol vessel transmitted a radio message declaring that the FPSO was operating in what it termed disputed international waters before continuing its course in a southwesterly direction toward other FPSOs.
The incident rattled workers aboard the various vessels. There are hundreds of Guyanese and other workers on the various vessels involved in oil production offshore Guyana. At one stage, the captain of the Venezuelan naval ship could be heard questioning those in the various vessels.
What is the IMO number? Don't you have IMO number, over?
My IMO number is 9175080.
What is the call sign, over?
Call sign is Charlie 6 Bravo Foxtrot 5.
What is the flag of the ship, over?
We are Bahamas.
What is the port of registry, over?
Port of registry is Nassau.
Please tell me what is the name of the master and nationality, over?
Question received, no comments from our side.
How many people do you have on board, over?
Question received, no comments from our side.
What kind of ship are your ship, over?
We are FPSO.
Guyana has since started increased monitoring of the area in the Stabroek block where the incursion occurred, and the Guyana Coast Guard has been dispatching additional teams to the area. This is the second time in as many weeks that Guyana has had to inform the international community of incidents involving Venezuela. Week before the last, 6 Guyanese soldiers conducting patrol duties in Guyana's Cayuni River were shot by persons from the Venezuelan side of the border. It is suspected the assailants were members of a criminal gang that operates in Venezuela.
Grenada's National Democratic Congress is making it clear that dominance is the goal and no seat is off limits. Grenada Broadcasting Network has the details.
In a bold and unwavering declaration of political ambition, Prime Minister and political leader Deacon Mitchell set the stage for the National Democratic Congress (NDC) to cement itself as the most dominant political force in Grenada. Speaking at a high-energy rally at Boucheju Playing Field following the party's national convention, Mitchell made it abundantly clear that the NDC is not just here to govern, it's here to reign.
I want us to understand that the goal of the National Democratic Congress, as approved by the new constitution today, is to make the National Democratic Congress the premier political party in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. That means we must be the only choice, the first choice, the best choice for all the citizens of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique.
In a move that underscores the NDC's aggressive political strategy, Mitchell set his sights on St. George Northwest, the long-held seat of former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell. This constituency has remained an impregnable fortress of the main opposition New National Party (NNP) for decades, but Mitchell made it clear that its days under opposition rule are numbered.
We starting here because we intend to take St. George's Northwest with us. So to our brothers and sisters in Northwest, we understand there was some loyalty, there was some steadfastness. You endured 40 long, hard years, but we are accelerating the change. We are going to move with velocity. We're going to move like Lewis Hamilton. We're starting the engine in the Northwest tonight. And when the Formula One car pass through, we're taking Northwest first.
The significance of the event was further underscored by the presence of 2 regional heavyweights, Prime Minister of Dominica, Roosevelt Skerrit, and Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Pierre. Skerrit, in his address, applauded Mitchell's vision and leadership, calling him a trailblazer for the new era of Caribbean governance. Pierre echoed similar sentiments, praising the NDC's progressive approach to governance and economic development.
Win an election coming from 50 north to where you are today, you must give him another round of applause. Because I can tell you, winning elections in this environment is not an easy thing. And for the NDC to win the elections after somebody tell me, I will call nobody name, that it was impossible for the NDC to win.
And let me say to you, as a leader of a political party, when you see they start attacking your leader, just know that things are happening in Grenada, ladies and gentlemen. Because no one sends a stone at a green mango. And you know, we yellow in Grenada. We yellow in Grenada, which means that we are in government at the right time, ladies and gentlemen.
Amidst the charged atmosphere of political momentum, Mitchell also announced the party's latest infrastructural move, the purchase of land in Calavini to build a permanent NDC headquarters. This, he explained, was not just a structural development, but a symbolic and strategic move toward consolidating the party's growing power and ensuring its sustainability for generations to come. But beyond politics, Mitchell struck a chord with a message of national unity. He called on all Grenadians, regardless of political affiliation, to rally behind the vision of a prosperous and unified nation. Reporting for GBN News, Nisha Paul.
We now bring you these international reports.
As promised, let's talk tariffs for the next few minutes because big developments on that global story today. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, announced that they are putting together plans to challenge the US tariffs that have been announced at the World Trade Organization, saying it's a violation of an existing free trade agreement between the countries. President Trump's tariffs on Mexico, on Canada and China came into effect today. The tariffs are 25% taxes on goods from Mexico and Canada and an additional 10% on Chinese products, bringing that total to 20%. The announcement sent US and European stocks sharply down. Well, Canada's Prime Minister, talking at that news conference just a short while ago, slammed the measures as illegal action, saying Canada will keep its tariffs on US goods in place until America remove theirs. And the country was also considering other options.
I won't sugarcoat it. This is going to be tough, even though we're all going to pull together, because that's what we do. We will use every tool at our disposal so Canadian workers and businesses can weather this storm. From expanding EI benefits and making them more flexible to providing direct supports to businesses, we will be there as needed to help. But Canada, make no mistake, no matter how long this lasts, no matter what the cost, the federal government and other orders of government will be there for you. We will defend Canadian jobs. We will take measures to prevent predatory behavior that threatens Canadian companies because of the impacts of this trade war, leaving them open to takeovers. We will relentlessly fight to protect our economy. We will stand up for Canadians every single second of every single day because this country is worth fighting for. It's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal. But Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Well, let's speak to the former chief economist of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Patrick Lowe. And Doctor, welcome to the programme. It's a pleasure to have you on. It looks like we are in for a sustained trade war here, doesn't it?
It really does. I think the word that Prime Minister Trudeau used is apt. The economics of this are really crazy.
He said dumb. In terms of consequences globally, just take our viewers through it in terms of likely consequences here.
Well, I mean, the first impact will be on prices that the United States has to pay in order to import products from Canada, from Mexico and from China. And those are not insignificant amounts of trade. The immediate effect will be to raise consumer prices. Producers in the United States who rely on imports as inputs into their production processes will also be affected. And then, of course, there's the retaliation. There's no doubt whatsoever that there's going to be retaliation. We don't know what Mexico's going to do, but we have a pretty good idea what the Canadians and the Chinese have in mind. And it'll get ugly. I'm not sure how this is going to end, but it's going to be very bad for the economy, the world economy, because these are big players.
And when you get into a spiral like that, it is very difficult to actually get out of it. I was looking at a graphic only, a month or so ago when this was proposed and then paused. But the notion was, if we get into a full global tit-for-tat tariff war, in terms of the impact it has on GDP, global GDP, it was the combined total of France and Germany. I mean, that is staggering, isn't it?
It's huge. It's huge. And clearly there's going to be an economic... If this carries on, if they don't settle this quickly, and I don't think the prospects for doing that look great, it's going to hit... It's already hitting stock markets and stock prices. It's going to hit inflation. It's going to hit growth. It's just going to make people poorer. Maybe a few countries will gain a little bit because of shifting trade patterns, but it'll be minor compared to the damage.
Already growth, you mentioned growth already. We're looking at this quarter for the US, and it's having an impact. All the uncertainty of the last 6 weeks playing into a slashing of the forecast for American growth. And of course, we're perhaps just partway down this path, aren't we? Because the EU is in Donald Trump's sights next.
We're going to see what they do to the EU. I think it'll be surprising if they don't do the same thing. But then, of course, it's just going to multiply by several-fold the consequences, because Europe's a big player.
In terms of a way out, I know it's very difficult to try and get inside the mind of the American president, but what do you think he's actually hoping to achieve here?
I'm not sure, honestly, because I do think it's hard to get inside his mind. But from what he's been saying for quite a long time, he thinks that tariffs are a legitimate defense against what he considers to be the systematic exploitation of the United States by all its trading partners. Now, on both counts, it's very hard to understand what he's actually talking about, because clearly these are simply not the realities.
He has said in the past that he wants companies to come back to actually produce in America. That is a pretty simplistic thing to say. How difficult is it to translate into reality?
Well, first of all, that takes quite a lot of time. And secondly, they're going to come into America to do what? To serve as export bases when they have to buy all these inputs at inflated prices? It's really hard to see. You know, he thinks that the United States needs more manufacturing industry, and that's also something that's highly contested, because if you look at the national accounts of the United States, the vast bulk of the United States earnings, the money, the income comes from services, not from manufacturers. And that's the reality of rich countries.
A quick final thought. We've only got a few seconds left. We said that Canada's Prime Minister is going to challenge what the Americans have done at the World Trade Organization. Has that got any mileage, do you think, briefly?
Sadly, I'm afraid it will not have, because the World Trade Organization is in disrepair to the point where I don't think anything it says or does right now is going to have an impact. Perhaps that'll get better in the future, but right now it's more of a political gesture than a hope for remedial action.
Gazans gather at a charity soup kitchen in Khan Yunis to receive Ramadan meals cooked by volunteers. Saturday was the first day of Ramadan. 2 days later, after Israel stopped aid deliveries to Gaza, organisers said they'd had to change the menu from meat to lentils because of price increases. Israel blocked the entry of aid trucks on Sunday as a standoff over Gaza's truce escalated. Humanitarian aid agencies warned Gaza's limited stockpiles of food, medicine and shelter supplies may spoil. Volunteers at the kitchen, which provides meals for 20,000 people, feared food shortages. Here's organiser Abu Omar.
The kitchen administration prepared a plan for the month of Ramadan. But the closures of the crossings has disrupted all the plans. because of the closure and the extremely high prices.
Hamas-run authorities deployed in local markets to question and detain merchants who put up their prices, according to Hamas sources and witnesses. Ayub Macrh and his family broke their Ramadan fast on the rubble of their house in Jabalia, a sign of the desperate need Palestinians face after the 16-month-long war. Philippe Lazzarini, head of UN Palestinian relief agency UNRWA, said Israel's suspension of deliveries threatened lives and that aid and basic services, quote, must never be used as a weapon of war. More than 300 trucks were stopped from crossing the border from Egypt on Sunday, according to the International Federation of the Red Cross, while the Norwegian Refugee Council warned agencies could end up halting shipments of aid altogether because keeping aid trucks waiting in queues is costly. Macrh fears the return of the hunger they suffered in wartime.
We saw our children die at our feet and in front of our eyes, and we couldn't do anything for them. Because of the famine that we witnessed, we ate grass, we cooked grass, and ate it with spoons.
Israel, while announcing the aid suspension, said it will not allow a ceasefire without the release of all remaining hostages. Hamas has denounced Israel's move as blackmail and, quote, a blatant coup against the agreement.
Torrential rains have turned Jakarta into a city of waterways, with floods engulfing Indonesia's capital and its surrounding regions. In Bekasi, just east of Jakarta, entire neighborhoods lie submerged under meters of water. Thousands of people have been forced to seek refuge on their rooftops since Tuesday morning, waiting for rescue.
The floods this time came pretty fast, and we were not able to salvage our stuff, especially in my shops. And all my belongings at home are gone. Maybe it's a warning from God.
At around 3 in the morning, water from the river overflowed from the embankment near my home. The water came in fast. In 45 minutes, it reached my second floor.
An evacuation operation is now underway, with emergency services sending rubber boats throughout the flooded districts. Hundreds of rescue crews are working to reach those still stranded.
We were already taking refuge on the second floor, but around 3 a.m. water came in from the tiles. We went to the balcony, got to the highest part of the house and waited. We were rescued at 10 in the morning.
With roads completely cut off, some desperate residents have resorted to swimming through contaminated waters to reach safety. For many, the wait continues. Officials say the flooding has affected more than 1,000 homes across Jakarta and its satellite cities. Those rescued are being transferred to temporary shelters, which are already housing hundreds of displaced families.
We are working together, the military, police, National Disaster Agency. We have around 350 joint personnel in this area and 30 rubber boats going around for evacuation.
Authorities say this could be the worst flooding to hit the Jakarta region since 2020, when a similar disaster killed 60 people. With heavy rainfall forecast to continue for several more days, officials warn the situation could deteriorate further. Axel Zaimovic, Al Jazeera.
15 years after a deadly earthquake struck Chile's southern coast, scientists are predicting another potentially large one.
Every 10 years, a major event occurs.
Felipe Leighton is a seismologist at the Chilean National Seismology Center, where scientists have been observing accumulating stress. He says that indicates potential for a major earthquake, this time in the country's mineral-rich north. Chile's location on the seismically active Ring of Fire that surrounds the Pacific Ocean makes it prone to large quakes. Its mountains and earthquakes are the product of the Nazca and South American tectonic plates crashing into each other. On February 27, 2010, an 8.8 magnitude earthquake struck Chile's southern coast near the city of Concepcion. It lasted 4 minutes and unleashed a tsunami that killed 550 people. It was the country's deadliest natural disaster since a quake in 1960, the strongest on record. As the world's largest copper producer and second largest lithium producer, Chile's biggest copper mines are located in the north, as well as all of its lithium production. Geologist and University of Santiago professor Mohamed Ayaz Alam says there hasn't been any large releases in the region. That indicates built-up stress could be brewing, he says.
Earthquakes happen due to stress accumulation, which depends on the time since the last seismic event. We are expecting a mega earthquake in northern Chile, as no major events have occurred there.
He says while the country is prepared, more improvements around false tsunami alerts are needed.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were:
Natasha Gray Brooks highlights neglect in constituency number 1 East Bastyr.
Public health approach takes center stage in St. Kitts and Nevis crime prevention strategy. St. Kitts and Nevis to launch new health care initiatives, a security strategy showing results. Guyana rallies international community against Venezuela's aggression. Grenada's National Democratic Congress is making it clear that dominance is the goal and no seat is off limits. Internationally, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau retaliates against U.S. and calls Trump's tariffs very dumb. Thank you for listening.